Hello, it's Claire, and today I am making a video in English. It's a video response to two spirits who asked a very interesting question about soul decks. So normally I'm not making videos in English because, well, it's more complicated as it's not my mother language. And so talking with the heart in another language than your mother language, it's more complicated. But I found this question very interesting, and I wanted to be part of the community who answer this question. I have checked the video of Lorraine, which really I love, and I found the answers very interesting, so I will do my own answers. So the first question was soul decks, what are they? So for me, a soul deck is a deck that that helps you along your life's journey. I mean, we've got our soul that go into our body, and then we've got some missions and things to do. And the soul deck helps you to go along this journey, this life journey. And so what does mean? What does this mean? So it means, so it gives a sense. It helps you giving a sense, an understanding of what's going on during your life, and what are the significations of all what's going on in your life. So I mean, if you are living something difficult or something beautiful, it can help you to understand what is beyond this. These things that happen in your life. So sometimes it helps also to see clearer. So maybe, so for me, sometimes I just feel overwhelmed. I think it's that there are too much things happening in my life, and I don't understand anything anymore. I don't understand why, and I just feel like life is a burden I have to carry. And when I use Soul Deck, it gives me some information of okay, no, it's not a burden, it's something you are working, and what type of things I am working on. And so, for instance, when I had, well, it's more 10 years ago, and I was ill and I went to hospital, I worked quite a lot with my deck, which was the Tarot de Marseille. I only had this one to understand what was going on, and what was the signification of what's going on. And I still work with it because I'm still having problems, health problems. So I use them to feel better and to give a sense. Because for me, having a sense is giving some light, giving some, well, it helps me carrying these things that seems to me very heavy. So third things is, I think that a soul deck also helps healing. It helps me healing, and I use them to heal. And I think that healing the ego, the personality, is very important. Sometimes I explain that for me, you've got the soul that is in the body, in the personality, but the personality is like a horse, and the soul is on the horse, and the soul can do things in this life and can learn things and can do what it has to do if the personality is in good health. I mean, if the horse is totally KO, you cannot, the soul cannot do what it has to do in the life. So the personality for me is very important, and the soul decks, even if I call them soul, they are also here to heal and to help the personality to grow. And if the personality is okay, is in good condition, then you can do things and field of the soul aim. And if you're not, if your personality is broken, then you cannot. It's very it's much more difficult to grow. I mean, there is a part of the soul experience. No, it's not a part. It's all the soul experience is through the personality. So the personality is for me really, really important. And before working on soul level, you have to work on your personality. You always have to work on your personality. So a soul deck is a deck that is working with your personality to heal, to help, to understand, and so on. And also a soul deck is a deck that help personality and ego, personality, ego, and soul to communicate. I mean, it's a good way to have information from your soul, and then your personality can see the informations and see what's important for the soul, and it's very good tool to communicate with our soul. I think it's difficult to say it's a soul deck. Well, sometimes it depends on where you are. I've used a lot the Tarot de Marseille from Jodorowsky. I'm not using it anymore. So it used to be my unique deck, and so it was my soul deck, the one that was with me and was helping me. And now I've got many decks that helps me, and there are only 2 decks that I would call soul deck. But there are many decks that help me to go on during this life. So there are different levels of helping. So there are decks that help me at psychological level. So these decks, they were very important for me. And the first deck was the Deviant Moon deck. I know it's important deck for many people. So I'll just show you some images. Even so, you know this deck. So the first time I saw this deck, I found it really horrible. I found it awful. It was just there are some images I couldn't just look at. And then I became obsessed by this deck, and I watched it on YouTube, on the web, many images, and then I bought it. And I worked with this deck, and I realized that what was difficult for me was people were not beautiful. They were scary. They were there were parts of people and something like machine. They were imperfect, and yes, it's an imperfect deck. I mean, it's a deck with imperfections, and the more I worked with it, the more I understood that this deck helped me, this tarot helped me working on my own imperfection, and having it as this imperfection, they were part of me, and I had to love them. And the more I looked at the persons, for instance this one, the more I looked at it, the more I feel sort of tenderness for them, because they were imperfect, they were fragile, they were just like us, just like human beings. And I started loving them and loving this part of me at the same time. And also it's a deck that was made with colors and textures taken from cemetery and tombs. And I had, and I still have, but try not to work too much with it, but I had a special relationship with death and with dead people, and I talked when I was a child, and then during a long time I talked to them a lot, and I felt safe with them. So this is also something that is a part of my life. So, well, this is the first deck. The second one is the Checoli Tarot and Oracle. So you know the deck also. I also have the Oracle. So this one is more a deck that I worked with on traumatism I had when I was a child. So it's a deck that is really, there is a sense of sadness, loneliness, abandon. So all these things that I had to work with, because it's part of my story, and also abuse. It's a deck that for me speak about abuse, abused child, and it was really difficult to see the images, and also something important for me to see my story through the images that were images of cute little kids. They are both in index that resonate with the little child I was, and that I still have inside of me, and it is still suffer from what happened long time ago. And but it's quite strange because this deck came just when I started working on the post-traumatic stress, and this deck appeared in my life. And so for me it's not really a soul deck, it's a working deck, and it's important deck for me. It's part of me. This deck is a part of me. In fact, these decks and the Deviant Moon and this one, they are part of my story. They tell a part of my story and the difficult things in my story, and they are very psychological decks. So then I have other decks that are important for me. The third one was a deck that was gifted by my mother, and it was important because it's the Bohemian Gothic deck. It's also a dark deck. This deck is for me is a deck that works with my lineage. I mean my ancestors. I recognize some photos that could be photos taken of my mother, and the story of my mother, and so the things I have inside of me that are part of my story now. I'm the things that my mother gave to me from her story and from the story of her mother, and so on, mother and father. So this is also a dark deck, but I like because it's not like the other decks. There are quite a lot of humor in these decks, and I feel also good with this deck because it's dark, and I feel safe. It's quite strange because it's all the people there, they are quite scary, but it's also the deck. Well, it's the world I lived when I was young. I lived in this world, so I feel safe in it, and I love sometimes just watching images and just think of my ancestors, and just think of what happened to them, and how they lived, and what they gave to me. So there are things that are difficult, but other things that are quite nice. So this is my ancestors deck, but not 100% soul deck. So I've got all the decks that I use. It's not soul decks, but it's decks that are important for me. It's the anglais Tarot. The anglais Tarot is a very important deck for me because it's a deck that grounds me. It helps me going back to here and now, and what I am going to do now. What is my life now? What is the day-to-day life? What is important now? And I really like this deck for that. It's really powerful. This is a reminder of, okay, you're here to live in a real life, not in a parallel life. Okay, you've got something, you've got a foot in it, but you don't escape the real life. I've got other decks, and these decks are important for me because they talk to me in a very specific way. Two spirit talk about things that when you see them, you know that there's something before you. There are things you have already seen, and you recognize them. I've got this strong relationship with shamanism and North American shamanism. I think I may be an Indian before. I think the way you lived before in your past life influence your present life, because you have all what you learned during your past life, and you have to use them to go in this life, even if it's a very different life. So the one of the deck I am using that makes me feel it's sort of family, in fact, is the Vision Quest, because it's an Indian deck, and he's got a very shamanic feeling, and I love the colors, and sort of I can recognize things, and I like also its simplicity. I'm working a lot with abstract decks. I won't show them because it's not soul decks, but I really like abstract decks because they help you to connect with your intuition. So I like its mix of very well, you've got people doing things, but also you've got things that are very like this simple, and you can let your intuition go. So, well, I'm not working a lot with this deck, but it's very I feel good when I go with it. I feel at home, I feel safe, and so it's good to use it. Other decks like this are French decks. So this one is Cœur de Femme. It's not a tarot, it's an oracle, and I really also feel in my family when I see these texts, these images. They really speak to me. The guidebook is very original because you've got you haven't got something like divination and so on. You've got poetry. You've got a very little message, but with poetry also. And you've got stones, plants, and ritual to well, associated to the card. So it's really a shamanic deck for me. And there is another deck. It's also a French deck, and it works on femininity. The name is Féminitude. So you've got all the aspect of femininity, feminine, all the feminine aspects, and for me it's also a shamanic deck, and the drawings they touch me, and it's one of my oldest deck. And you've got the fox woman, you've got the love, you've got a lot of animals, and so as I'm working a lot with totem animals, I can shift into animals, and it helped me a lot when I did a lot of anxious crisis, and I transformed into wolf to help me to go through this crisis. And so this is one of the deck that I worked a lot, and I still love to look at it and just feel the energy of this deck. It's very important for me, this deck. So it's Feminitude. Another deck that is really important for me, it's a round deck. It's the Mother Peace Tarot. So this deck is also a shamanic deck, and it's feminine deck. I don't have it for a long time. It makes me feel alive, and I find that something that's coming from the very, it's like connecting to something that is really, really old, a sort of power that I have inside of me, and I think everybody has this kind of power inside. And this power, having access to this power is really something gives me empowerment. And I don't know how to say it. So it's round. It's something that linked me to the matriarchal society. Working with it, for me, is doing a part of my job, of the job I have to do to promote these values inside of me and a little bit outside, but the first work for me is to do it inside. So this is, I feel this is something I have to do that is important for my soul. This is something I have to work on my soul path, on my life path. I really feel it. I did a lot of meditation of it, and I've got two parts of me. It's something that is really young and really patriarchal, and at the beginning of my life I really worked on it, on competition and industry, and having more and more, and still have this inside of me. And I've got the feminine part of me that is waiting to be developed, and this deck really helps me. So this is, for me, this is a soul deck, because this is really a deck that accompanies, that is with me, and that helped me to go through this path. And this path is important. So I did meditations and try to understand why I had this burnout, more than 10 years ago, why my life changed that much, why I have these anxious problems. And all of this was about my all what's happening in my life. I have to go through this because it's something that is at the image of the society, of the human path. I'm just part of this, and inside of me I've got all humans' problems, and I have to work a little bit on my level on these human problems. I also have two more soul decks, and the first one is the Marielle Tarot. It's, for me, it's a really strong deck. I've got a very deep connection with it, a connection that it's difficult for me to explain. But the Mother Peace Tarot is a soft deck. It's a feminine deck. It's a mother deck. This deck is more, I don't know, it's more natural deck, and it's also a shamanic deck for me. I really feel in my family when I see this deck. I think this man could be my father. I love the angels. It's an angelic, well, it's a deck of angels going to earth and going to incarnation. So it's a deck that speaks of our divine part and the difficulty of of angels. We all are to live in incarnation. So uh, I find it so powerful. Even it is not talking about day-to-day life. It's, for me, it's the opposite of the anglais Tao. It's talking about being a light or a soul or inside inside incarnation, the difficulties and the challenges and the beauty also, beauty of old. Of the life, the beauty of the life and the difficulty of the life. And I really like the energy of this deck. This could be my child, my inner child. This is what I used to be before, when I was an Indian. This is the wise crone I used to be, or I would like to be when I will be older. I mean, in this deck, I've got the past, the present, and the future that mix. There is no more a time. Everything is going. It's like time disappear, and everything is going at the same time, and it's really a strange deck, and I do love it. Also, there are some. It's shamanic and Egyptian. You've got Egyptian figures, and I really these are the two tools, the two things that makes me vibrate. I mean, gives me a good vibration. I work with totem animals. I work with shamanism, and also work with the Egyptian pantheon. I'm doing meditation, working with the gods and goddesses. I feel very close to Anubis. I dreamt of Anubis coming and helping me, healing the view of masculine energies. The protection. I worked a lot with Isis as a mother. I work now with Sekhmet to heal my huge anger. Yeah, I have against. Against. Well, I've got inside of me, and so it's as this deck was made to help me going through my life, and so it's really special for me. I've got other decks, and I don't want to take too much time, but I've got another deck that really is also a deck that is important for me. Maybe it's as important as the Marielle, but it's a magician's Quirion deck, and it only speaks of the soul, and it's a very mystical deck. And for me, it's just like the Marielle, and I find it really powerful, and I feel also like the Marielle. I feel home with this deck, and I really feel something special, and like the colors, like the way the things are depicted, and I like the book also. I'm not using all what is said in the book, because it's not 100% what I believe in, but there's something that is talking to my soul or to my unconscious directly, and I don't understand each time what's happening and what's going on inside of me, but I know that this is a healing deck. Well, I showed you lots of decks. There are also other decks. It's the Vampire Tarot from Robert Place. Robert Place made a lot of he worked a lot of mysticism, and so I like the story this deck is talking, and it's like a story of life, of initiation, of so even if it's vampire deck and looks like quite a fantasy deck, I find it very profound, and really like the book of Robert Place, and like the images, and like the story, and for me it's like a soul's journey, and the soul is helping us to is driving us into the life, and help us to go through the life, and experience things, and learn things. And this deck speaks about this. So it's, yes, half a psychological, half mystical decks. But well, if I had to choose only one deck, I would choose this one. I would choose the Marielle Tarot, because it's really the one who speaks to me, and in different levels, and I can recognize things of my life in it, and my past and my future, and it's something that is out of time. It's an out of time deck, and it's got a very grounding energy, and also very spiritual energy. It speaks about ancient life. It speaks about future life. It speaks about my allies, my guides, my spirit guides, and the gods and goddesses, and the colors, and the way all the things are drawn. It's really something that resonates with me. But as I said at the beginning of this video, a soul deck is difficult to explain. It's difficult to explain what is a soul deck. It's difficult to know why this one is a soul deck. I try to find explanations, but there is something that's going on inside of me, and inside it's sort of feeling, something that cannot be explained. And thank you very much to Spirits for this idea of video. It was very interesting question, and it took me some time to try to understand what's going on with these decks, and why, and what kind of deck may I choose. I've seen that the soul decks are not the decks I'm using the most, because they are very powerful. Or maybe the Mother Piece, I use them because I'm working on the matriarchal aspect of life. But when I will have finished, maybe I won't use it that much. I mean, these decks, they are not the decks we're using all the time. They are the decks that are very important, and that works in a very deep level. So you cannot use it every day. You cannot do drawings of these decks all the time, because it's too powerful. And when you do a drawing, you've got lots of information, lots of things going on, and they are not going on only in a mental way to understand things. There are things that are going on inside, and that are not that impact inside. And in the incarnation, things are going slowly. You cannot heal very rapidly. You cannot change things very rapidly, because the body is not changing really rapidly. And it's the same for the emotional body, same for mental body. Things are going slowly, and so you have to take time. So thanks a lot again to Spirits. My video is quite long. I'm not used to do these quite long videos. I think it's maybe could be quite boring to listen to somebody who's not speaking perfectly English. I hope English spoken people will understand all what I said, because it's not really easy to express everything in a language that I learned in the chemical industry. So I don't have all the words. Even if I read a lot and watch a lot of videos in English, I don't have the vocabulary to express everything, and I feel quite bad because I cannot express everything in English, but this sort of frustration. But well, I did it. So thanks for listening to me, and bye bye.